Today, I'll be adding an inline hydraulic filter to my Chinese mini excavator. Clean, particle-free hydraulic fluid is your first line of defense to protect all of your components that make our machines strong, reliable, and happy. Presently, at least in my machine, there's a strainer for the oil that you pour in and a finer strainer on the suction line inside the reservoir. During my last hydraulic oil change, I stuck some rectangular magnets to the bottom of the hydraulic reservoir on my machine to hopefully remove any metal particles suspended in hydraulic oil, as well as give me an indication that stuff is wearing out. This inline filter features a replaceable 10-micron filter cartridge. The two plugs in the housing are actually 1/8 inch NPT, which in a future video I'll be adding a pressure gauge to show how much the filter cartridge is blocked, therefore indicating when the filter cartridge needs changed. The process of adding the inline filter should be similar to this, regardless of the brand of mini excavator that you own, unless it isn't. We'll identify the threads on the hydraulic fittings, and then I'll walk you through the complete installation process. Let's get started. And this is my AGT QK16R mini excavator. The hydraulic reservoir is right behind this panel. We're going to have to remove this panel to install it. But first I want to talk a little bit about the fittings. So to make this fit my machine, yours may be the same, it may be different, but I'm going to show you how I concluded that these are the right fittings for mine. And I have not verified them yet, so maybe they're not. But these only convert 1/2 inch pipe thread on the inside to 3/4 inch pipe thread, or NPT as we commonly call it. That is actually what will come out of both sides of the filter housing. So these are your two adapter fittings, and the fittings on my machine, they call it metric din light. It has an inverted flare, meaning that the female nut actually has the male part inside, or whatever these fittings choose to identify as nowadays. But if you look real close, you can see that there's a O-ring that seals, but most of your sealing actually comes from the metal to metal contact as it tightens into the taper. And as you can see, my line coming in is this, and the line going out is this. So we gotta be careful that we put these on the right side of the filter housing. You can see that the direction of flow is marked with these arrows. This is the part that's gonna go in the reservoirs, so that will go into this side because it's on the return line to the reservoir. Well, I'm glad you asked how I concluded that this is what the thread is. I used the micrometer. I came up with 21.86 on my machine. 21.83 is close enough, and essentially that is 22 millimeter. With that outside dimension on the thread, that is exactly what I had on the machine, so I'm pretty confident that these are gonna fit. So we're going to have to remove this panel to get into where the hydraulic reservoir is. Of course, it lifts up and over, and you got to watch because you have your throttle cable and your choke cable. We're just going to set that in back of the machine for now. Now you can see our hydraulic oil is about midpoint on the sight glass. This is the line we're going to interrupt for the filter, and it comes out of the cooler right here and just makes this J-hook. The cooler is an add-on to the machine. Your machine may not have one. Crazy trucks going by. Don't they know we're recording? But this was an add-on. It has a little 12-volt fan on it, and there's a little radiator that chills the oil somewhat as it's returning to the reservoir. So my whole point, oh gosh, there's an airplane flying over now. my whole point in pointing this out where the oil level is we're going to have to lower this oil level at least to the bottom of where this fitting is. You know, so we don't get oil all over the place. And we're still going to probably get oil all over the place, just not as much. So we're gonna have to suck the oil out.
And that's what they always do. They suck the poison out. It's the most important thing you can do.
And if you don't have one of these, you're gonna probably wanna have one. It's a oil extractor. It's a vacuum oil extractor. Now these Pittsburgh, they're made to be magnetic parts trays. They have a magnet on the bottom. These things make excellent little drip pans when you're doing this kind of stuff, and you don't need a lot of drip pan, but you need something like that. And this actually happens to hold the filter and everything. And we'll just take our cap and put it on here so nothing can get in there. Now if you don't have one of these, you're going to want one. I bought the Four Uncles brand. I checked Harbor Freight, and Harbor Freight wanted $140 for theirs, and I don't think it even holds anywhere near as much as this. This one holds 15 liters, I believe. I don't know what that was that just came off of there. I guess it's like a little kickstand so you don't... I didn't even know that was down there. But I think that's a kickstand to keep it stabilized. I don't know. Or maybe it's to pick it up. Oh, that's to pick the back end up, because you can pour it out this after you suck the oil in. But this thing makes oil changes super easy. You either have, I never even tried it yet with the shop air, but you can connect it to your compressed air and just turn this valve on and it'll start the suction. It has this hand pump as a backup, but it holds 15 liters of oil. And watch how easy this is to suck it out of the tank. So we just stick our line down into the tank, and then we get you back here. You just pump. See it sucking the oil in? And you give it so many pumps, like maybe 10. And look, you can see our oil level going down here. All or most of the stuff used in this video will be in my Amazon store. You can really help this channel by clicking my store link on the top right before you make any Amazon purchase. And any purchase earns small commissions even if you buy nothing from my store. This is part of what keeps the lights on at the Mostly Mike show. The more you pump it, of course, the faster it's going to suck the oil out.
And that's what they always do. They suck the poison out. It's the most important thing you can do.
If we pull back on the hose and you listen closely, you can hear you can actually hear it like sucking, like the bottom of a glass through a straw. Okay, there's the top of our oil level. We should be far enough down. Yeah, we're well past our fitting there. Kind of used that as a dipstick. I should be wearing gloves, but you should wear gloves if you do this. So this is our return line again, and I'm gonna break it loose. Alright, and we're good. Now the moment of truth. See, this is the O-ring I was telling you about earlier, and that's a 24-degree angle on there. I'm just gonna kind of hang it up out of the way here while we get the rest of it prepared. So hopefully this is gonna screw right on. Feels tight going on. That has to be it. Yeah, it's just because it's a painted surface. We don't want that tight anyhow just yet. I just wanted to make sure that it fits. So I'm going to put a little Teflon tape on the threads. If you never ran this stuff before, see how I stuck my middle finger through here and you have the label facing outward, and you just go just like you're going clockwise around the thread and kind of pull it snug as you go. And on the hydraulic system, I don't like to get the tape over the end of the thread anywhere, because if a little piece of that comes out into the system, it could block orifices or whatever. and we'll just stick it in, and then we're going to snug that up. Do the same thing on the opposite side, and we'll have it set up for 1/2" NPT. You got to be careful when you're looking at pipe threads. There's BSPP, which is British Standard Pipe Parallel. That would be, they're the same dimension, but they have like a little O-ring on the face of the nut. That's not the case here. These are a tapered thread. They're not parallel threads. So we got to remember that this female, or whatever it chooses to identify as, goes on the outlet side. So we might as well Teflon it up before we go in. That way we can get everything tightened up good. We don't have to worry about the swiveling because we have a swivel on the end of the hose and we have the swivel here to connect it to the tank. So we don't have to worry about it spinning on us. So that is where it belongs, you know, and it'll only go in the correct way now. And it's gonna port mount, that we call that, when it mounts with the fitting itself. So this is our Dow 55 O-ring grease, and I'm gonna apply a little bit to the threads too, just because it can never hurt. And this stuff won't contaminate your hydraulic oil or anything like that, but it gives it a good mating surface to seal up. And just spin that baby on. Give it, I'll turn it a little bit further with a strap wrench after we get it on. Yeah, this is pretty good stuff. It's kind of pricey. It's nothing Vaseline wouldn't replace, but this is specifically made for O-rings. So I'm not going to get too crazy about how I tighten this. I'm just going to snug it up in the vise to keep that part from turning. Hopefully it will. Some people might argue you use paste on the hydraulics, not the tape. I was careful not to get any. There's no way that that tape's going to get into your system unless you have it over the end of the threads, like a lot of people do. You've seen that. You're a witness when I put that on that I got no tape over the end, so it's impossible for it to get into the system that way. So, as we talked about a little while ago, this is the double wrenching method here. And I like to set up the wrenches like this to where you can just squeeze them together to tighten. And you can put a tremendous amount of pressure on these threads by doing that. And that one, I'm pretty confident it's fine. Do the same thing on this side. Oh yeah, that's super tight. All right, we're ready to put her on the machine. This will port mount itself right to the side of the tank, and as you can see, the lower line on here is keeping it from going perfectly plumb, but I think we're going to be okay with that. I got the threads started. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up before we put our other line on. If you like this type of mini excavator content, be sure to subscribe and click the green bell to stay in the loop for new content, and check out my mini excavator stuff playlist for videos about mini excavators and mini excavator accessories, as well as upgrades and repairs, even lessons learned on operating these fun machines. You won't get this anywhere else, unless you do. Alright, I got some reasonable tightness there, and you can see I tried to situate it where it's not contacting anything that's going to cause it to wear through that filter, which is important. You don't want it to chafe through. So even though I've never put one of these inline filters in before, I've done hydraulic work before, and I kind of rehearsed this project in my sleep. So as you can see, we have a little bit of a problem here where this is coming up into a 90-degree angle and it needs to pivot. So I'm going to reroute it around this line at the bottom here, and it's still not going to be right yet. So we need to put a twist in the hose, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to loosen this nut in here, and that should give us what we need as far as pivoting, or otherwise I'm gonna have to probably get another hose made a little bit shorter. Sorry about that. Okay, so so that hose is stuck in the fitting yet. I'll have to... Okay, now it'll pivot. And we can get it started. And there we are. I'm going to snug this one up first. Let me grab my other wrench. We're going to double wrench this. Just give it a little bit of snuggage. That should be plenty. Now we have to get down inside, tighten that other one up, and we're golden. Make sure it's good and tight. And it is. And we should be good now. Ready to fill her up and test it. So these suction lines, there's a variety of them that come with this this oil extractor or fluid extractor. And these things, they just come out like that. And it's righty-loosey on these. Just for the record, the way these things are set up, I don't know why they made it that way, but they just did. And then you just dump your oil in out of that. I'm just gonna dump our oil back in that we took out. Pretty hard to overfill it that way. The filter itself is gonna take a little bit of oil. All right, and then I'll just top it off with some fresh oil. All right, let me level with you. All right, now you can see I'm straight in front of the gauge and we're a little bit low. I'm just gonna top it off a little bit. These oil servicing jugs are kind of a nice thing to have. They make adding oil very easy. I'm just gonna put a little bit in and get you back down to the gauge. And we're right at the top of the red, which should be good. We're good enough to start it now. That's gonna go down a little bit once we start it. All right, I'm gonna bring the idle up a little bit and then I'm gonna run it through some motions here. You can see it did take up some oil. No puddles on the ground, so apparently that filter took that much of it already. But I'm gonna bring the idle up some. So there's our installation, and as you can see, everything's bone dry as far as control, or all of our fittings and whatnots. This is all dried down here where we retightened it. The routing of the hose looks pretty good. I might put a little bit of spiral wrap between these two where they're touching, but actually they're touching hard enough to where they're not going to rub. But I still feel like I should stick something in between them, like maybe a piece of Teflon or zip tie a piece of Teflon around there. As you can see, our oil's still a little bit low, so I'm gonna just add a little bit. Now, according to the instructions, they want you to have the boom and everything down and resting on the ground. Our plow's down, everything is down, so we're still reading low here. I'm just going to add a little bit here. A little bit more. And that looks pretty good right there. Maybe just a hair more. Neighbor's feeding his dogs, in case you're wondering why they sound like they're screaming bloody murder now. They're beagles. So I noticed putting it on, something was hanging up, and this was actually like contacting the edge of the filter when I was trying to get everything lined up, and that's what was causing the holes to not line up. So I am gonna And that should fix it.
Subscribe to stay in the loop for more videos like this, and click the thumbs up if this video helped you out, and check out my Amazon store. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.